The Unexpected War. In a distant galaxy, a beautiful planet called Valoria thrived under the rule of Princess Lyra. Valoria was known for its lush green fields, shining rivers, and advanced technology. But deep inside her heart, Lyra carried a sadness. Years ago, she had faced defeat in a battle against humans from Earth. The memory haunted her. She had lost many of her loyal warriors and her pride. Now, as she stood on the balcony of her grand palace, she gazed at the stars, feeling the weight of her past. "I will make them pay," she whispered, her voice filled with anger. She could still remember the human soldiers and their fierce determination. They had shown no mercy, and that made her heart burn with a desire for revenge. Back on Earth, things were peaceful. People lived their lives, unaware of the dark storm brewing in space. Major General Daniel, a respected leader in the Earth Alliance, was in a meeting discussing the latest advances in technology. "We need to be ready for anything," he warned his fellow officers. "The galaxy is a dangerous place, and we cannot let our guard down." Suddenly, an alarm rang throughout the military base. A large spaceship appeared on their radar, heading straight for Earth. The officers exchanged worried glances. "What is it?" one officer shouted. "Is it a threat?" General Daniel rushed to the control room, where screens flashed with information. The ship was enormous, and its markings identified it as Valorian. "Prepare for defense," Daniel ordered, his voice firm. "We don't know their intentions, but we must be ready for anything." Meanwhile, Princess Lyra's ship descended through the atmosphere of Earth, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. She was not alone. An army of Valorian warriors surrounded her, eager to fight for their princess and their honor. They landed in a remote area, away from human cities. The princess stood at the front of her troops, her armor gleaming in the sunlight. "Today, we reclaim our honor," she shouted, her voice echoing through the ranks. The warriors cheered, their eyes burning with the fire of battle. "We will show them the strength of Valoria." As her troops prepared for war, Lyra felt a mix of emotions. She had dreamed of this moment, but she also knew the cost of war. Many lives would be lost, but the pain of her past pushed her forward. She would not back down. Back at the military base, General Daniel received news of the Valorian invasion. "They've landed," an officer cried. "They're preparing for an attack." "Gather our forces," Daniel commanded. "We cannot let them advance further into our territory. We must protect our people." The soldiers quickly gathered their weapons and gear, ready to defend their home. They suited up in heavy armor, knowing that this battle would be unlike any they had faced before. Daniel led them to the front lines, where the air was tense with anticipation. As the sun began to set, the sky turned a fiery orange, a stark contrast to the growing dread in everyone's hearts. Suddenly, a loud roar erupted from the Valorian side. Princess Lyra raised her sword, and her army charged forward, a wave of determined warriors. "Hold the line," General Daniel shouted to his soldiers. "Stay together." The humans braced themselves as the two armies collided with a thunderous clash. The battle was chaotic, filled with the sounds of weapons clashing and the cries of warriors. Humans and Valorians fought fiercely, each side desperate to claim victory. Princess Lyra moved through the battlefield with skill and speed, her heart pounding with adrenaline. She fought bravely, determined to prove her strength. But as the battle raged on, something unexpected happened. In the heat of combat, Lyra found herself face to face with a human soldier. His eyes were filled with determination, but she could also see a hint of confusion. They exchanged blows, but as they fought, time seemed to slow down. "Why are you doing this?" the soldier shouted, dodging her attack. "We don't want war." Lyra paused for a moment, taken aback by his words. "You took everything from me," she yelled back, her anger boiling over. "You humiliated me and my people. I fight to protect my home, just like you," the soldier replied, blocking another strike. "But we can't keep doing this. It only leads to more pain." His words struck a chord deep within her. In that moment, she realized that they were not so different. Both fought for their homes, for their loved ones. She hesitated, and the soldiers seized the chance, pushing her back. As she regained her balance, Lyra's mind raced. Could there be another way? She looked around at the battlefield, the destruction, the cries of pain. Was this truly the honor she sought? Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the ground. A Valorian soldier had fired a weapon at a group of humans, and chaos erupted. Panic spread, and both sides began to retreat. In the confusion, Lyra saw her chance. "Stop," she shouted, raising her sword. "We do not have to do this." But her voice was lost in the chaos. The battle continued, and Lyra felt a deep sadness wash over her. She had come to seek revenge, but now she questioned everything. Was this the legacy she wanted to leave behind? With her heart heavy, she retreated with her soldiers, leaving the battlefield behind. As she climbed back into her ship, she looked down at the destruction below. This was not the victory she had hoped for. This was just the beginning of a war that could change everything. Lyra knew that she had to make a choice. The war had begun, but in her heart, she wondered if there was a way to find peace instead. The unexpected war had thrown her into chaos, and now she had to find a way to navigate the darkness. The gathering storm. After the unexpected battle, Princess Lyra stood in the dim light of her ship, staring out at the stars. The vastness of space felt empty and cold. She had come to Earth seeking revenge, but what she found was chaos and pain. The cries of her warriors and the humans echoed in her mind, making her heart ache. Lyra felt a heavy weight on her chest. She had hoped for glory, but instead faced only destruction. "Princess, we need to regroup," her trusted advisor, Commander Thorn, said as he entered the ship. He was tall and strong, his eyes filled with concern. "We lost many warriors today, and our forces are weakened. If we want to continue this fight, we must plan carefully." Lyra nodded, still lost in her thoughts. "I know, Thorn, but at what cost? We may have won the battle, but we are losing the war within ourselves. This isn't what I wanted." Thorn placed a hand on her shoulder. "We are fighting for our honor, for Valoria. We cannot show weakness now. The humans will only see this as an opportunity to strike back. But are we any better than them if we continue this path?" Lyra asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're destroying lives, and for what? A chance at revenge." Thorn stepped back, surprised by her words. "You are the princess, Lyra. Your people look to you for strength. We cannot back down now." With a heavy heart, Lyra turned away from him. Perhaps it is time to think of a different approach. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Daniel was in his command center, reviewing the footage from the battle. His face was tense, and his mind raced with thoughts. They had suffered losses, but not as many as he feared. The Valorian army was fierce, but they were not invincible. "We need to strategize our next move," he told his team. "We can't let them gain any more ground." An officer spoke up. "What if we tried to communicate with them? Maybe they'll listen." Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "After today, I doubt they will. But we need to consider every option. If we can find a way to stop this before it escalates, we must." Days passed, and tension filled the air on both planets. Lyra spent her nights in sleepless thought, planning her next steps. She knew that she needed to regain her strength and find new allies. Her mother, the former queen, had always spoken of powerful warriors from distant planets. If she could unite those forces, she might have a chance to claim victory over the humans. Gathering her best warriors, Lyra called for a meeting. "We will seek allies," she announced, her voice strong. "We will travel to the stars and recruit those who share our desire for revenge. We cannot stand alone against the humans." Her warriors cheered, their spirits lifting at her words. "Yes, we will show them the might of Valoria," they shouted. The princess felt a flicker of hope. If they could unite their strength with others, perhaps they could achieve what she had set out to do. But as she prepared for this journey, a small voice in her heart warned her. Was revenge truly the path she wanted to take? Meanwhile, General Daniel met with his top officers to discuss their strategy. We need to gather intelligence on the Valorians, he instructed. If they are looking for allies, we must find out who they are meeting and where. Agreed, sir, an officer replied. We should also improve our defenses in case they attack again. As Daniel listened to his officers discuss plans, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were heading towards a disaster. The war was spiraling out of control, and he feared for the lives of both his soldiers and the Valorians. Days turned into weeks as both sides prepared for the looming conflict. Lyra traveled from planet to planet, seeking allies among various alien races. Some were fierce warriors, while others had advanced technology. She spoke of revenge against humanity, igniting the passion of those who had faced defeat at the hands of humans. Join us, and we will take back what is rightfully ours. She rallied her new allies. They responded with cheers, their spirits lifted by her words. But deep down, Lyra felt a growing unease. The more she rallied for revenge, the more she questioned her motives. Back on Earth, General Daniel received news of Lyra's alliances. They are gathering forces, one of his officers exclaimed. If they unite, they could become a serious threat. Then we need to act fast, Daniel said, his face hardening with determination. We will not let them catch us off guard again. We must prepare for the worst. As the days passed, both sides grew more entrenched in their beliefs. The Valorians were fueled by their desire for revenge, while the humans were determined to protect their home. Each side prepared for the storm that was about to break, unaware that their paths would soon cross again in ways they could not imagine. On a distant planet, as Lyra stood before her new allies, she felt a moment of clarity. She looked at the faces of those gathered, and she wondered if they were all blinded by revenge. What if there is a different way? She whispered to herself, but the roar of her army drowned out her doubts. The gathering storm was upon them, and the fate of both worlds hung in the balance. Each side was prepared for war, but deep down, a flicker of hope remained. Would there be a chance for understanding, or would they be consumed by the fire of hatred? The answer lay ahead, in the heart of the battle that was about to unfold. The call to arms. The tension was palpable in the command center of Princess Lyra's flagship, the Vengeful star. The bright lights flickered, casting long shadows over the gathering of her new allies. Each face around the table was filled with determination, but Lyra felt the weight of her choices pressing down on her shoulders. Today, we stand united, Lyra declared, her voice strong and clear. We are not just Valorians. We are a coalition of warriors from across the stars. Together, we will strike back at humanity and take our revenge. Cheers erupted in the room. Warriors from various planets raised their weapons in agreement, their voices echoing with fervor. Among them were the fierce Farkans, known for their unmatched combat skills, and the technologically advanced Drayans, who brought their powerful ships and weapons. The combined strength felt invigorating, but deep within her heart, Lyra felt a pang of doubt. Princess, we have the advantage in numbers, Commander Thorne said, his face lit by the glow of the ship's controls. We have allies ready to fight for our cause. We can strike at Earth before they know what hit them. Lyra nodded but couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. And what happens after? Once we defeat them, what then? Will we be any better than the humans we seek to destroy? Your Highness, a Varkan leader interjected, revenge is the only way to restore our honor. We cannot show weakness. The humans have already proven their ruthlessness. Lyra looked around the room, meeting the eyes of her allies. Each one seemed to be driven by their past grievances against humanity. It was then that she realized they were all consumed by their desire for vengeance, just as she was. Let's prepare our forces, she said, forcing herself to sound confident. We will launch our attack in 3 days. That will give us time to finalize our plans and prepare for battle. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Daniel gathered his top officers in the war room. Maps of the galaxy and images of the Valorian forces were projected onto the walls. The room buzzed with tension as everyone anticipated the impending conflict. "Sir, we've received reports that the Valorians are rallying with several alien races," an officer said, pointing at the screen. "They plan to attack soon. We need to bolster our defenses." Daniel nodded, his mind racing. "We can't let them catch us off guard again. Prepare our fleets and increase patrols around key locations. We must be ready to defend our home at all costs." As they planned their defense, Daniel couldn't help but feel that there had to be a better way. What if we tried to communicate with them? "Perhaps we can avoid further bloodshed," he suggested. A skeptical officer shook his head. "After what happened last time, they won't listen. They're out for blood." Frustrated, Daniel replied, "Maybe, but we have to try. We can't let hate drive us to destruction. If we can show them that we're willing to talk, we might change their minds." The days flew by as both sides prepared for the impending battle. Lyra and her allies trained vigorously, sharpening their skills and perfecting their battle strategies. The Valorians developed new weapons and tactics, each soldier eager to prove themselves. On the morning of the attack, the skies were dark and foreboding as Lyra stood on the bridge of the Vengeful Star. Her heart raced with excitement and dread. "Today we will show humanity the power of Valoria," she shouted, rallying her warriors. They launched their ships into space, a dazzling array of colors and technology flying in formation. The combined fleet was a sight to behold, a testament to their unity and strength. But as they approached Earth, a sense of uncertainty washed over her. "Commander Thorne, are we ready?" she asked, her voice steady but filled with apprehension. "More than ready, Princess," he replied, his face resolute. "This is our moment." As they neared the planet, Lyra could see the blue and green of Earth shining brightly against the darkness of space. A feeling of nostalgia washed over her. This was the planet that had once fascinated her, the place of dreams and hope. But now it was filled with animosity. "Prepare to engage," she commanded, shaking off her doubt. The ships began their descent into Earth's atmosphere, their weapons primed and ready. Back on Earth, General Daniel received the news of the Valorian fleet approaching. "They're here," he shouted, his heart racing. "All units, prepare for combat." The atmosphere was electric as soldiers rushed to their stations, fear and adrenaline fueling their movements. "We can't let them breach our defenses. Fight for our home," he ordered, his voice a rallying cry. The two forces were set to clash in an epic confrontation that would determine the fate of both worlds. As Lyra led her warriors into battle, she felt the weight of her choices. Was she truly ready to annihilate the humans? In that moment, as she activated her ship's weapons, she saw a flash of light, an unmistakable sign of the humans preparing for retaliation. The battle was about to begin, and there was no turning back now. But deep within her, a whisper of doubt remained. Would this conflict lead to destruction, or could it be the path to a new understanding? The answer lay in the chaos of the battle that was about to unfold. Lyra clenched her fists, torn between two paths. The desire for vengeance battled with the faint hope of peace. "No," she said finally, her voice resolute. "We need to hear him out." The decision shocked her crew, but Lyra knew in her heart that continuing the fight would only lead to more destruction. As the battle slowed, she initiated a channel to communicate with General Daniel. "General, this is Princess Lyra of Valoria. Unwilling to talk." On the other side, Daniel's eyes widened in surprise. "Princess, I'm glad you reached out. We can end this senseless fighting. Let's find a way to come to the table." As the ships hovered in a tense standoff, both sides awaited what would come next. The battlefield was filled with smoke and debris, but amidst the chaos, a small light of hope flickered. Would they choose the path of war, or could they find common ground to heal the wounds that had driven them apart? The outcome rested on their ability to communicate, to listen, and perhaps to understand one another. As the silence enveloped them, Lyra took a deep breath, knowing the next move could change everything. The path to peace. In the aftermath of the battle, the silence was deafening. Both the Valorian fleet and the Earth Defense Forces stood at the brink, ships positioned like pawns on a chessboard, awaiting the next move. Princess Lyra gazed out of her viewport, the devastation around them a grim reminder of the stakes at hand. "General Daniel, we are willing to discuss terms," she said, her voice steady yet laced with uncertainty. "But we need assurance that there will be no more hostilities during our talks." Daniel nodded, his expression serious. "Agreed, Princess. We can arrange for a ceasefire. Our people have suffered enough. Let's meet on neutral ground." Lyra felt a mix of relief and anxiety. A meeting could be the turning point, but would the humans truly be willing to put aside their differences? "Where shall we meet?" she asked, her heart racing. "On the moon, at the old research facility," Daniel replied. "It's abandoned and safe from any outside interference. It will allow us to speak freely." "Very well," Lyra said, making the arrangements. "I'll send a small delegation to meet you there." As the communication ended, Lyra turned to Commander Thorne, who looked both confused and concerned. "Are you sure about this, Princess? We have the upper hand. Why negotiate when we can win?" Lyra sighed, her resolve wavering. "Because winning will only lead to more suffering. I don't want to destroy humanity. I want them to understand us." Thorne shook his head. Frustration etched across his face. "But they hurt you, Princess. They shattered your heart. You can't just forget that." "I can't forget, but I can forgive," she replied, her voice calm but firm. "This isn't just about us anymore. It's about the future of our people. We can't let anger dictate our actions." As Lyra prepared for the meeting, she gathered a small team of trusted advisors. Each member was chosen for their wisdom and ability to negotiate. They would accompany her to the moon, ready to represent Valoria in this crucial moment. Hours later, the Vengeful star landed softly on the lunar surface, its sleek design contrasting against the gray landscape. Lyra stepped out, her heart pounding as she took in the desolate beauty of the moon. The air was thin, and the stars twinkled brightly above, a reminder of the vast universe around them. Waiting for her was General Daniel, flanked by his own advisors. He stepped forward, extending a hand. "Princess Lyra," he greeted her, his voice steady. "I appreciate you coming here." "Thank you for agreeing to meet," she replied, shaking his hand. "I hope we can find a way to resolve our differences." The two leaders led their teams into the old research facility. The room was dimly lit but spacious, filled with remnants of humanity's past explorations. Lyra took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. "We've both experienced pain," Daniel began, his tone serious. "But continuing this conflict will only lead to more suffering for our people. What do you propose?" Lyra felt the weight of his words. "I want to discuss a treaty. We need to establish a foundation for peace. We can work together to prevent this from happening again." "Cooperation could benefit both our worlds," Daniel replied, nodding slowly. "But we need trust. Your people attacked us first, and it has left a bitter taste." "I understand," Lyra said, feeling the burden of history between them. "But I ask you to look beyond our past. My people were hurt too. We lost everything because of misunderstandings and hatred. We want to heal." The discussions continued, both sides sharing their fears and hopes. Lyra spoke passionately about the Valorian culture, their love for peace, and the pain they endured after the war began. Daniel shared stories of humanity's struggles, the sacrifices they had made to protect their world, and their desire for a brighter future. Hours turned into what felt like moments, and a spark of understanding began to form between them. They exchanged ideas on trade, technology, and shared resources. Each proposal strengthened the possibility of collaboration, slowly building a bridge over the chasm of distrust. As the meeting came to a close, Daniel looked at Lyra with newfound respect. "You've given me a lot to think about, Princess. If we can find common ground, Perhaps we can change the course of our histories." Lyra smiled, hope igniting in her heart. "That's all I want, General. A chance for our peoples to thrive together." They agreed to draft a peace treaty, outlining terms that would protect both Valoria and Earth. As they left the research facility, the moon's pale light illuminated their path. For the first time in a long while, Lyra felt a sense of optimism. But as they stepped outside, the quiet calm of the lunar landscape shattered. An unexpected blip on the radar caused alarm bells to ring. A fleet of ships appeared on the horizon, Valorian ships that had not received the ceasefire orders. "Princess," Thorn shouted, panic in his voice. "They're not responding. They're coming straight for us." Lyra's heart sank as she realized the gravity of the situation. "No, we have to stop them," she yelled. "This cannot end in bloodshed." But as the ships advanced, she knew that the fragile peace they had built was hanging by a thread. The fate of both worlds rested on her shoulders once again, and she would do everything in her power to protect it. "General Daniel," Lyra shouted, determination fueling her voice. "We must join forces now, or everything we've worked for will be lost." Daniel nodded, his expression fierce. "Let's show them the strength of unity. Together, we can face this threat." As they rushed back to their ships, the battle was far from over. But for the first time, they had each other's backs. With hope ignited, they were ready to stand against the oncoming storm. The war was not yet won, but they had taken the first step toward a brighter future. The Battle of Unity. The tension crackled in the air as Princess Lyra and General Daniel hurried back to their ships. The approaching Valorian fleet loomed like a dark cloud against the bright lunar sky. Both leaders knew that if they didn't act fast, their fragile alliance would shatter and countless lives would be lost. "General, we need to reach our forces first," Lyra urged as they sprinted toward their ships. If they engage in battle, it could escalate into a full-scale war. Daniel nodded, his face set in grim determination. "Agreed. We must convince our troops to stand down. If they believe we've betrayed them, there will be no turning back." They quickly boarded the Vengeful star and activated their communication systems. As the ship powered up, Lyra felt the weight of her responsibility bearing down on her. The fate of both worlds depended on her ability to maintain peace. "General," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them, "you need to contact your fleet as well. We can't let this misunderstanding spiral out of control." Daniel initiated the communication with his forces, his voice resonating with authority. "This is General Daniel. Stand down. I repeat, stand down. We are in the midst of a peace negotiation with the Valorians. Engaging in combat will only lead to more suffering." The response was immediate, filled with confusion and anger. "General, they attacked us first. We can't trust them." Lyra quickly chimed in, her voice firm yet pleading. "This is Princess Lyra of Valoria. We are here to seek peace, not war. We have both suffered losses. Let us not add to that pain. We are united in our desire to end this conflict." There was a moment of silence on the other end, and Lyra held her breath. Would they listen? Then, a voice came through, shaky but clear. "Princess Lyra, are you saying we should stop fighting, after everything they've done?" "Yes," she replied, her heart racing. "We can find a way to coexist. Please, trust me. Together, we can show our peoples that there is a better path." Daniel's voice broke through again. "We must focus on the real enemy, the impending battle. If we join forces, we can defend against this attack. But we need to work together. Can you all accept that?" Lyra could hear the murmurs of uncertainty among the troops. She seized the moment. "Your leaders are calling for unity. Let's not repeat the mistakes of the past. This is our chance to prove that we can rise above hatred and fear." Slowly, the messages of surrender began to filter in from both sides. "We will comply," one voice said, sounding defeated yet hopeful. "We'll stand down." As the tension eased slightly, Lyra and Daniel exchanged relieved glances. They needed to act fast, though. As the Valorian ships continued to approach, their intentions unclear. "Let's prepare for defense," Daniel instructed. "We'll form a united front. If we can show strength together, maybe we can deter them from attacking." Lyra nodded, her heart pounding with determination. "And if they attack, we will fight side by side. We can't let fear drive us apart." The two fleets moved into formation, the Valorian ships flanking the Earth defense forces. Lyra felt a mix of pride and anxiety as she surveyed the crew around her. They were all ready for battle, and the air buzzed with the energy of unity. Suddenly, the radar blipped again, and the enemy fleet appeared on the horizon. They were massive dark vessels with sharp angles that glinted ominously in the moonlight. Panic surged among the crew, but Lyra held up her hand, silencing the fears. "Remember, we stand together. We fight for peace. Our strength lies in our unity," she shouted, rallying the crew. As the enemy ships drew closer, Daniel's voice echoed through the intercom. "All units, prepare to engage. But remember our goal. We protect, not destroy." The enemy fleet opened fire, lasers slicing through the darkness. The sound of explosions echoed in the air as Lyra's heart raced. The ship rocked violently, and she steadied herself. "Return fire. Let them know we will not back down." The vengeful star roared to life as it fired back, joining the dance of destruction. Lyra watched as the Earth ships responded in kind, the light of their blasts illuminating the night sky. Despite the chaos, Lyra felt a sense of camaraderie with the humans fighting alongside her. They were all united, facing a common threat. The Valorian ships moved with precision, their maneuvers coordinated with Earth's forces. In the heat of battle, she saw Daniel at the helm of his ship, rallying his crew, his face lit with determination. They were no longer enemies but allies, fighting for a shared dream of peace. As the battle raged on, Lyra spotted a heavy enemy cruiser on a collision course with her ship. "General, that ship is targeting us," she warned, her voice filled with urgency. "Braced for impact," Daniel shouted, his focus unwavering. At the last moment, the Earth ships flanked the cruiser, drawing its fire. Lyra's heart soared with hope. They were truly working together, a unified front against a common enemy. "Now's our chance," she called out. "Let's take that cruiser down." With renewed energy, they launched a coordinated attack. The combined firepower of both fleets overwhelmed the enemy cruiser, causing it to shudder and then explode in a brilliant flash of light. The crew cheered, their spirits lifted by the victory. But there was no time to celebrate. More enemy ships pressed forward, and the battle was far from over. "Stay focused," Lyra reminded her crew, knowing that the stakes were still high. With each passing moment, the tides of battle shifted, but unity held them together. They were fighting not just for survival, but for a chance to build a new future. And as long as they stood together, hope burned bright amidst the chaos. The battle raged on, but within the hearts of the warriors, a newfound strength blossomed. They were no longer just Valorians or humans. They were allies fighting for a brighter tomorrow, the dawn of peace. As the final echoes of battle faded, the sky began to lighten, painting the horizon with hues of pink and gold. The remnants of the fierce conflict were visible all around, damaged ships drifting in silence, the faint glow of fires illuminating the wreckage. But amidst the destruction, a sense of hope hung in the air. Princess Lyra stood on the bridge of the Vengeful Star, her eyes scanning the battlefield. General Daniel stood beside her, both of them visibly exhausted but resolute. They had survived the night, and their combined forces had triumphed over the Valorian fleet. But this victory came at a cost. Many lives had been lost, and the path to peace was still fraught with challenges. "Look," Daniel said, pointing toward the remaining enemy ships that were now retreating. "They're falling back." "We did it, Lyra." Lyra let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "But at what cost?" She replied quietly, her heart heavy with the memories of fallen soldiers. "We need to ensure that this doesn't happen again." "Agreed," Daniel replied, his voice filled with determination. "But we can't let fear and anger dictate our actions. We must take this moment to reach out to them. We must extend an olive branch, even in the midst of our grief." Lyra nodded, understanding the weight of their responsibility. They had fought hard, but the true battle lay ahead. "Let's call for a meeting with the Valorian leaders. We need to discuss the terms of peace." With a swift motion, Daniel activated the communication system. "This is General Daniel of the Earth Defense Force. To all surviving Valorian ships, we invite your leaders to a peace conference. It's time to end this cycle of violence." Silence enveloped the bridge as they awaited a response. The atmosphere was tense, thick with anticipation. Would the Valorian leaders accept their invitation, or would they view this as a sign of weakness? Finally, a familiar voice crackled through the speakers. "This is Princess Lyra of Valoria. We accept your invitation, General. It is time we seek a new path forward." A wave of relief washed over Lyra. "Thank you, Princess. We must meet immediately and discuss how to move forward together." After a brief moment, they established a secure link between the two ships. Lyra and Daniel stood at the forefront, ready to lead the charge for peace. As the communication opened, Lyra could see the weary yet hopeful faces of her fellow Valorians on the screen. "Greetings, Princess Lyra and General Daniel." A Valorian commander spoke, his expression a mix of sorrow and determination. "We have all suffered great losses. It is time to put our differences aside." Lyra felt a sense of unity with them, despite the distance. "Yes, we've all lost too much. We must forge a new path, one built on understanding and cooperation, rather than hate and vengeance." The Valorian commander nodded. "We will return to our homeworld and bring this message to our leaders. But we must ensure our people understand that peace is our only option moving forward." Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady. "We can assist in that. We can share our technology, our resources, and work together to rebuild what has been destroyed. Together, we are stronger." The commander looked thoughtful, weighing their words carefully. "You speak of unity, but we must also address the anger among our people. They will need time to heal and to trust again." Lyra understood. Trust takes time. We must be patient and show them that we are committed to peace. Together, we can demonstrate that our strengths lie in our alliance, not in our divisions. As they spoke, the atmosphere shifted. What had started as a meeting of former enemies transformed into a gathering of allies. Ideas flowed freely, and plans for a new era began to take shape. Days passed as they worked tirelessly to establish the foundations for their new alliance. The combined forces of Valoria and Earth held joint training sessions, sharing knowledge and strategies. The sight of their soldiers working side by side was a beacon of hope, signaling that they were ready to move forward together. During one such session, Lyra watched as Daniel trained a group of Earth soldiers. His natural leadership shone as he motivated them, his charisma inspiring confidence. It reminded her of the unity they had forged during the battle, and she smiled at the thought of their growing bond. "Princess," one of her fellow Valorians called, drawing her attention. "There are rumors of dissent among our people. Some believe we should retaliate against Earth for our losses." Lyra felt a pang of concern. "We must quell those fears before they spread. I will address them personally. We can't let anger lead us down a dark path." The next day, she stood before a gathering of Valorian citizens, their faces filled with uncertainty. "My friends," she began, her voice steady, "we have faced unimaginable trials, but we stand at a crossroads. We can either allow our anger to consume us, or we can choose a better path." The crowd murmured, the weight of her words sinking in. "The humans are not our enemies. They fought alongside us against a common threat, and together we can build a future that honors those we lost." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, but some still voiced their doubts. "But how can we trust them? They have caused us pain." Lyra raised her hand to calm the crowd. Trust is built through actions. We must show them that we can work together. This is our chance to heal and to create a brighter future for all of us. Slowly, the tide began to shift. As she spoke, the fear and anger in the crowd started to fade, replaced by hope and determination. Together, they could build a new world, one where peace reigned. In the days that followed, news spread of the new alliance. Both Valoria and Earth began to flourish, rebuilding their societies and fostering connections that had once seemed impossible. Joint missions and cultural exchanges became commonplace, allowing their peoples to learn from one another. The war had taught them harsh lessons, but it had also opened the door to new possibilities. Lyra and Daniel stood together, witnessing the fruits of their labor. They had weathered the storm and emerged stronger. One evening, as they watched the sunset over the horizon, Lyra turned to Daniel. "Do you think we can truly maintain this peace?" Daniel smiled, a warmth in his eyes. "With hard work and dedication, I believe we can. We've built something beautiful from the ashes of war. Together, we can ensure that it lasts." Lyra nodded, her heart swelling with hope. "Let's continue to be the champions of peace. We owe it to our people and to those we lost." As the sun dipped below the horizon, they stood side by side, united in their mission to create a future filled with hope, love, and peace, a future worth fighting for. The dawn of a new era had begun, and they were determined to protect it.